Oh, there's Lewis. I can't hear anything.
Not even me?
Forgot, are we supposed to show?
Sean Lewis, can you hear me? Okay.
That's an affirmative, Councillor Hillier.
Thank you. I'm not hearing mostly what I usually hear when I tune into this. Usually I hear the clerk and everything else.
Okay, it is 12 o'clock, so I am going to call the 7th meeting of the Community and Protective Services Committee to order. City Hall is currently closed to the public. This meeting can be viewed via the live stream on YouTube or the city website, and the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for council, standing or advisory committee meetings, and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cpsc@london.ca. And I'll look to committee members for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Councillor Van Holst. Oh, sorry. You appeared to be speaking, but I think you were just... Did you have a pecuniary interest, Councillor?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, seeing none, then we will move to the consent items, and I will ask our Vice Chair, Councillor Squire, to take over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have one consent item, item 2.1, the Kiwanis Park Natural Playground, and I wonder if someone is prepared to move that. I'm seeing the Chair, Councillor Lewis, is prepared to move it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hillier. Mr. Chair, would you like to make any comments?
Just very briefly, Mr. Vice Chair, this Kiwanis Park Natural Playground RFP is the result of a process that started back with the very first citywide neighborhood decision-making in 2017. So the community's been waiting quite a while for this to come forward. I'm glad that it's finally here, and I hope that we can move ahead with this as quickly as possible so that when our playground structures reopen during phase 3 of the COVID recovery, that we'll be able to enjoy this sooner than later.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Van Holst, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Presiding Officer, I wanted to get some details on this item. I'm afraid I don't see enough of a description here for me to approve this. I know that we've approved some projects in the past the city's done that have not turned out the way residents would have liked. And at a cost of $300,000, seems to me this could be the equivalent of 3 splash pads, which are quite popular. And this may be a great idea. I just don't see enough here for me to be able to support it. So perhaps staff could give us a better description. I see no design as was referenced in the package. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there someone, staff member, who could provide that kind of detail to the councillor?
Yes, through the chair. I'll get Andrew McPherson, who's on the line as well, to give a little bigger description on the project. But I just want to address it's a very cool project. It's unique to London. It's as Councillor Lewis mentioned, it was part of the initial NDM project for a small natural play area. And we've been able to utilize and expand the scope and create a really a cool feature that'll be in Kiwanis Park. So it's, I'll let Andrew talk a little bit more about the features, but it's very unique, it's very different, and spray pads are substantially more than 100. They're typically in the 450 range for a spray pad, just for that knowledge as well. So I'll pass it off to Andrew McPherson, not a councillor yet, maybe later in life, but I'll pass him off for now.
Mr. McPherson, go ahead.
Sure, through the chair. Thanks for the question. It is an interesting opportunity for the city, and natural play is something that people are getting back to. I think it's one of those things that provides greater opportunities for kids to explore and be involved with the playground. So it's a different way to build, and this company is local in Ontario, and they specialize in this kind of work. It'll be one of a kind in the city, a good addition to Kiwanis Park. And it is responding to the community's ask through the NDM process that we do this kind of playground.
Thank you very much. Councillor Van Holst, some follow-up?
Yes, please. Mr. Presiding Officer, I still have no idea what this is. Is this the mound of dirt that children play on? Is it just we let a place go natural for weeds? I have no idea what it is we're trying to build, and I'm hoping I can get that kind of answer.
Okay, so maybe a description of the actual project, Mr. McPherson, is what's being looked for.
Sure, through the chair. Absolutely. Good question again. There are some that do look like logs and piles of dirt. Those require excessive amounts of maintenance and attendance by the part of programmed activities usually. So this is a company that specializes in building these out of more natural materials. They are very different than your standard playground, which is generally going to be powder coated steel and plastic. This is actually wood and components that are far more natural. The interesting part is that we have the opportunity to take this to the community and work with the person who nominated this from the MDM process. So it will look very different, very natural, but it's durable, as maintenance free as possible, long lasting, and gives an interesting play experience for the kids that's totally unique. So these are structures still. They combine wooden structures, things you can climb on, things you can climb over, under, at ground opportunities. So it is a play structure experience, just with more natural materials, more inventive play, a very different kind of thing for the City of London.
Thank you. I think that's answered your question, unless I'm wrong, Councillor. You may not be happy with it, but it does provide the answer.
Okay, great. Is there a drawing of one of these kinds of things that I could see somewhere, some reference? Is that kind of thing available?
Mr. McPherson?
Yes, through the chair. Sorry, not with this report, but I'm happy to send you a link to this company and some of the work that they've done. I can send that shortly to you if you'd like, later this afternoon.
Okay, well, that'd be fine. I mean, I'm very pleased with the idea of playgrounds, and I certainly like the location. It's right close to the new pedestrian overcross or the biking bridge we have over the rail, so lots of people will be traveling by there. There's lots of opportunity. So potentially this is great. I'd just like to see more, but I'll support it in the meantime. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you. Mayor Holder?
Thanks very much, Chair. I think in support of what Councillor Van Holst has said, it would have been helpful to have a diagram of some sort of picture just describing in somewhat more graphic detail what it is that is asked to be approved. So I would suggest to Mr. McPherson, rather than what they have done in the past, clearly you have to have some design in mind for them to work from. And as opposed to saying, here's a piece of land, do your best. I know you wouldn't do it that way at all. But that probably would have answered some of the questions that could well arise from this. So I think it would be helpful to have this, what the actual plan looks like for the purpose of council approval ultimately. And if you could incorporate that or include that, I think that would be useful. In the meantime, I'm certainly prepared to support it. But there's a bit of an act of faith on this, which I think is well placed. But it would be helpful to see what it looks like. So no question there, just supporting Councillor Van Holst's suggestion and Mr. McPherson's idea, but more specific in terms of what the actual design looks like.
I think, Ms. McPherson, given the concerns, I'm sure you're going to produce a drawing, and then it will be available when this comes for a final council vote, so that if anybody had any concerns, they could be expressed. Thank you. Councillor Hillier?
Yes, thank you. Just confirmation, is this earthscapeplay.com online?
Go ahead.
Yes, it should be out of Wallenheim, Ontario. Yeah.
Thank you. There's some great examples on there just to see what they have done. So it would be nice to see an actual concept drawing of what direction they're going, because we have nothing to look at.
I think we've established that it would be nice to have a drawing available for council. I think that point's probably been, Mr. McPherson's head has probably been hit enough with that, and I'm sure you'll make it available. Any other comments moving forward? Nope, then I will call the vote. Thank you very much, and then it'll go back to the chair. Are we ready? Councillor, I'm just going to go in order. Councillor Van Holst,
Yes.
Councillor Hillier,
Yes.
Mayor Holder,
Yes.
and I am yes, Mr. Chair.
I am also a yes. And you have Mo on there as well, Councillor Salee.
I'm sorry, Councillor Salee, you were out of sight, so you're never out of mind, but you're out of sight. Go ahead. Did he vote yay?
Yes, I voted yea.
Great, thank you very much.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
I'll hand things back to the chair.
Thank you for taking care of that matter for us, Mr. Vice Chair. I just would remind colleagues and encourage that when you have questions about design, concept, drawings, things like that, if the staff are given an opportunity ahead of time prior to the meeting, then we may have been able to have that here. So just for future thought consideration, a heads up ahead of time might have made that available. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
As a point of order, not to beat this to death, but I think it would be incumbent on staff to anticipate, and I say this with the deepest of respect for the work they do, that would have been a natural thing, I think, to do. But you know what, I think your point's taken, and hopefully mine is in the same spirit of what I think will be a great project.
Well, thank you for raising that, and I saw Mr. Stafford nodding his head in agreement, so I think that there's moving forward an understanding on both of our parts. Mr. Stafford, did you want to quickly?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments, and we'll certainly do that. I think sometimes, you know, we fell into that trap of being in the industry and have seen and seen again all of these different types of natural playgrounds at various conferences and various websites, and I think we get caught up in the trap of not realizing that everyone's not attending and looking at these websites. So thank you for your understanding, and we'll look to bring that forward shortly.
Okay, so we have no items on the scheduled items list. We have no items for direction. So we just need to deal with the deferred matters and additional business list. So could I get someone to move the deferred matters list? Councillor Van Holst, seconded by Councillor Squire. And we'll call to question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Van Holst, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to maybe ask staff for just a little update on item number 10 on the deferred matters list, the tow trucks. There are things that are happening in the city which are clearly fraudulent, but you know, maybe even more, well, I guess that is criminal, but perhaps we could get an idea from staff where this is going and how we might be able to let our residents know the kinds of untoward activities are happening in this industry.
Thank you, Councillor Van Holst. Mr. Katolik is not with us for this meeting because we didn't have items on the consent or the scheduled items. But I see Ms. Smith is, oh, and she has graciously corralled Mr. Katolik for us. So we'll invite him to come to her microphone and speaker and address that question.
Yes, through the chair, we are working with London Police Services on a bylaw, and we're anticipating to bring this bylaw back to committee in either August or September. One of the focuses of the bylaw will be impound yards. We want to ensure that tow trucks in London have impound yards in London, not outside of the city of London. So that's just one of the issues we're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. Katolik. Councillor Van Holst, any follow-up?
Okay, that'll be fine. Mr. Chair, I look forward to that report in bylaw in August or September. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the deferred matters list? Seeing none, with thanks to Ms. Smith for getting Mr. Katolik for us, we will call this to question. And I'll do the roll call. Councillor Van Holst.
Yes.
Councillor Salee.
Yes.
Counselor Squire,
Yes.
Counselor Hillier,
Yes.
Mayor Holder,
Yes.
and I also vote yes.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 6-0.
Okay, that concludes the balance of our agenda, so I will look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Counselor Hillier, seconded by Counselor Squire. We'll do a hand vote on that. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you at SPPC.
Good job, Chair.